Welcome. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Wayford, Dr. Dieter, and I'm board certified as a pediatrician as well as an internist. And I'll start with this question. Why are we so sick today? And the answer is simple. We eat in ways that harm our body's natural biology. You see, food is medicine or it can be poison. And what we eat affects two key systems in our body. And what are those two key systems? The way our body makes energy and the way our gut functions. Now, these are the two main reasons why we are so sick today. And what I want to do is I want to take each of them individually, the way our body makes energy, and talk about that, and the way our gut functions and talk about that, and how they are the reasons why we're sick. So, how our body makes energy depends on a hormone called insulin. Insulin is a very critical hormone in our body. And why is that? Because it secures our body's energy needs. The job of insulin is to do this, to move glucose, mobilize glucose out of the blood into the cell. You see, every time we eat, we consume food. All the food that we eat is converted into glucose, and that glucose is released into the blood. Insulin's job is to get that glucose out of the blood into the cell. In the cell, there is a special energy factory in the cell called the mitochondria. So insulin shuns that glucose into the mitochondria, that energy factory, and spits out an energy molecule called ATP. ATP is just simply energy. Now, every cell in the body requires energy to function. The smallest entity of the body is a cell. Cells group up to form tissues. Tissues group up to form organs. Organ system. System forms the whole man. Every single cell in the body needs energy to function. And insulin secures the body's energy needs. So insulin is very, very important. Now, when insulin is not able to secure the body's energy needs, when there is a breakdown in insulin securing the body's energy needs, we say that breakdown is called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, the inability of insulin to secure the body's energy needs. Why does this happen? This happens because of we are overworking insulin. You see, in this day and age, we are consuming about 30 to 35% more calories than our ancestors ate. Every time you take in calories, those calories need to be processed by insulin each time. So if we are consuming 30 to 35% more calories today than our ancestors did thousands of years ago, it means our insulin is working way more than it was designed to work. If you have a job and your employer says, hey, Jim, on this job you're gonna work overtime once every year, that's fine. You're not gonna burn out if you have to pull a 1 hour overtime every year. If your employer tells you that you're going to have to work overtime 30 to 35% of the time, every day that you're on this job, what's going to happen to you? Jimmy, you're going to burn out because you're now working 30 to 35% of the time. So we are consuming way too much calories, 30 to 35% more calories than our ancestors did 1,000 years ago. Insulin is having to work 30 to 35% of the time more, and insulin gets burned out. What happens when you get burned out? Are you a productive employee or a less productive employee. You become less productive. So the insulin becomes burned out because it is processing so many calories than we are supposed to be, and it gets burned out. Now, when you develop insulin resistance, that insulin not being able to secure the body's energy needs, it now leads to disease processes. You see, the simplest definition of a disease is a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has malfunctioned because it did not have energy. If insulin is meant to secure the body's energy needs, when it's not able to do so, the cells that need the energy to function malfunction. You now have disease states, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Most of our modern day diseases are the result of insulin not being able to secure the body's energy needs. Now, let's talk about the second entity, how your gut functions, how it's related to the reason why we are sick. You see, our gut, in our gut, we house 30 to 100 trillion bacteria in our gut. And those 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that we house in our gut are called the microbiome, and they perform a very important function. They help the gut to have a balanced health. Now, when when God created you and I, He created those organisms there to live in a do for me, I do for you relationship. And when the gut, when and the organisms in the gut, this bacteria that live in the gut, live in a spatial proportion. 50% of this bacteria, what you call the good bacteria, and the other 50% of this bacteria, what you call the bad bacteria. Now, the gut has these functions to play that you see on this slide. And the functions of the gut depend on the composition of the good bacteria in the gut. One of the very important functions of the gut is that the gut helps to train and regulate the immune system. You see, our immune system is our defense line. When the immune system is working well, what it does is that it protects the body. It goes to battle for the body to protect the body from disease, from illness. When the immune system is not working well, what it does is that it is turned against us. So when the gut is not healthy, it causes the immune system not to be able to do its job of protecting us. And it turns our immune system against us. And the immune system, instead of now being a protector, begins to attack cells of the body. And by so doing, you develop autoimmune diseases. Now, I wanted to highlight that function of the gut. Now, we say you have gut imbalance when the bad bacteria in the gut outnumber the good bacteria. Remember, I said the composition of this bacteria in the gut 50% good, 50% bad. When things are in this 50-50 composition, the functions of the gut are in play. When you have gut imbalance, what happens is the bad bacteria may increase in number to 70% at the expense of the good bacteria that decrease in number to 30%. That is called gut imbalance. What causes gut imbalance? Remember, I said we eat in such a way that affects two key systems of our body. And what causes gut imbalance is what we eat or what we don't eat, fiber. So our foods in this day and age, unfortunately, are so processed and devoid of fiber. And do you know the interesting thing? Fiber is food for the bacteria in the gut. So because our foods are so processed, we're not consuming enough fiber. There isn't enough fiber to go around for the good guys and the bad guys. Now, when there is a shortage of food, what happens is that that shortage of food sets into motion survival of the fetus. The bad bacteria are the stronger bacteria. With the shortage of food, the bad bacteria are gonna hoard the little food that is there to themselves and say, you know what? We don't have enough food to go around for the good guys and the bad guys. Let's go ahead to keep a monopoly on this little food that is there. Let us go ahead and increase our army, so that we can keep as much of the food at the expense of the good guys. And when you have gut imbalance, these functions of the gut become compromised. The immune system could no longer help the body, to be able to defend the body. You now develop symptoms of gut imbalance. And on here, you're going to see a lot of autoimmune disease. Lupus is an autoimmune disease caused by the immune system attacking you because your gut is not healthy. Hashimoto's an autoimmune disease. So is celiac disease. So is multiple sclerosis. Now, there are many other functions of the gut that become compromised that lead to other disease conditions. I want to highlight these two disease conditions here, anxiety and depression, because I found that to be surprising when I learned about this 3 years ago. You see, there is a hormone in our body called serotonin, and that hormone is called a happy hormone or the mood hormone. It maintains our mood and happiness. 90% of that hormone is produced in the gut, and the other 10% of that hormone is produced in the central nervous system. So when there is gut imbalance, the factory doesn't work well, and 90% of that hormone cannot be produced. And if that hormone secures our mood and happiness, it makes sense that when you have an imbalanced gut, you will have anxiety and depression. Now, in as much as there is science that says that the reason we are sick is because of how our body makes energy and how our gut functions, there is also much science out there that says that if we could correct the problem of how our body makes energy and correct the imbalance in the gut, the disease processes that came as a result of the disease processes that came as a result of those can be reversed. Because what these two things do is they cause a deficiency of energy in the body. And when that energy deficiency is restored, the disease processes that came as a result of that energy deficiency goes away. And I liken this to driving a car on the road and you run out of gas. That car is gonna stop. It stops not because there's intrinsic failure of the engine. No, it stops because the power source, the energy is gone. If you walk to the nearest gas station, grab gas in a gallon, walk back to your car on the side of the road, and put gas in that car, restore its energy, that car starts again. So it is with the body. When you're able to reverse the biological issues that cause the stolen energy and restore the energy balance, those diseases that came as a result of the energy imbalance usually get reversed. So, I want to present to you guys a solution called the Feel Great system that helps to reverse the energy problem, insulin resistance, and reverse the gut imbalance. If these two things are the reasons why we are so sick today. And these two products are called nutraceuticals, a product which is made 100% from plants but has huge therapeutic benefits. What this is going to do is this uses the science of intermittent fasting and fiber supplementation to reverse the energy problem and the gut problem. You see, why are we going to use the science of intermittent fasting to reverse insulin resistance? Remember, I said insulin When insulin, the reason why insulin is not able to secure our body's energy needs is because we are consuming 30 to 35% more calories. We have caused insulin to work so much. Insulin has gotten burnt out and inefficient and can no longer secure our body's energy needs. So we're now going to try to use the science of intermittent fasting to be able, to give insulin a rest. You see, your ancestors and my ancestors 1,000 years ago did not eat 3 meals a day. I will be generous to say we eat 3 meals a day. We pretty much eat 3 meals a day and graze throughout the day. Our ancestors, some estimates say, ate 3 to 5 meals in a week. So they were not bombarding themselves with so much calories. So what this product does, Unimate, is that it contains a very special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. And Unimate is made from a plant that is native to South America called the yerba mate plant. So what chlorogenic acid does is it causes the body to produce a special hormone called GLP-1, which you may have heard about in the GLP craze. You may not have known that this is a hormone that the body produces 100%, when we eat the right foods. So GLP-1s are very good in helping you to be able to fast. The way insulin is going to recuperate. Dr. Jim, if you get burnt out from a job, the only way you're going to recuperate is rest. If you have gotten burnt out because you have worked and worked and worked, the way you recuperate is rest. So insulin is unable to secure the body's energy needs because insulin has gotten burnt out because of processing so much calories. The way insulin recuperates from its burnout is insulin needs to take a rest, a break. And intermittent fasting gives insulin that rest time, puts insulin on bed rest. When you're fasting, what happens is that you're not taking in any calories. When you're not taking in any calories, insulin doesn't have to go to work. When insulin doesn't have to go to work, insulin is resting. So this product called Unimate, when you sip it, it causes the body to produce its own GLP-1. We recommend that, while you're on this system, to you fast for at least 16 hours a day, not have breakfast, and reduce to having 2 meals a day. So the Unimate, sipping on the Unimate in the morning time during breakfast is going to extend your fast after you've had dinner at night. Extend your fast until 12 p.m. the next day. You're fasting for 16 hours. And when you take the Unimate, because of its GLP-1 property, it causes the hunger center of the brain to be shut off so you could fast seamlessly without feeling hungry. When you are fasting, insulin is resting because it's not processing calories. As insulin is resting, it is recuperating from its burnout. The more insulin rests, the more it recuperates to become efficient. So that's how the Unimate, by helping you to intermittently fast, will keep your insulin at bed rest so that your insulin can recuperate from the burnout of years and years of 35% over time. Okay? Now, by doing that, it's going to reverse that. The other product in this system, this nutraceutical, is a product called Balance. Balance is just simply fiber, fiber made from 7 different plants. And fiber also helps to cause your insulin to rest, helps to put your insulin on bed rest too. Because this is what fiber does. It does not contribute to any calories that we eat, 0 calories, and fiber takes away from the amount of calories that we eat. If I were to consume 500 calories without fiber, I will gain 500 calories. If I were to consume fiber and consume those same 500 calories, instead of those 500 calories absorbed, 300 will be absorbed. Why is that important? The more calories your body absorbs, the more insulin has to go to work. The less calories your body absorbs, the less insulin has to go to work. And remember, insulin is burned out, right? The way insulin recuperates from its burnout is for insulin to rest. And how does fiber help to decrease the amount of calories? You see, this is what fiber does. If you add a plate of lasagna without fiber, and I add a plate of lasagna, that same plate of lasagna with fiber, your blood sugar is going to do this. Okay? And that spike in your sugar may be a sugar 180. For me, I know a thing or two about the balanced product and it's rich in fiber. I consume it and then I consume that same plate of lasagna. My blood sugar will do this. And that blood sugar may be a blood sugar of 90. So when you produce a high blood sugar, your pancreas is supposed to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin, put more insulin to work to address this blood sugar. When I produce a lower blood sugar, my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin to address this blood sugar. Less insulin is working here, more insulin is working here. The more insulin works, the more insulin is burned out right here. The less insulin works, the less insulin is burned out. That's what fiber does. And the other thing is that fiber helps to decrease the amount of calories you consume from a food because insulin, when you produce more insulin, you're going to store more calories. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. So from this plate of lasagna, because you've produced 20 units of insulin, you may gain 950 calories. For me, from this plate of lasagna, because I've only produced 5 units of insulin, I may gain 350 calories. So that is what fiber does to you. And that is what fiber does for resting insulin, giving you putting lesser insulin to work as compared to more insulin to work. And by so doing, helping to reverse the burnt out problem that causes insulin resistance. The last thing is that fiber helps to reverse gut imbalance. You see, I mentioned that the food for the microbiome, the food for this bacteria is fiber. Okay? Unfortunately, we do not consume enough fiber in today's day and age. It is said that in today's day and age, the average man is taking in 10 to 12 grams of fiber, the average man and woman. A man should be taking in at least 38 grams of fiber a day. A woman should be taking in at least 25 grams of fiber a day. Our ancestors took in 80 to 90 grams of fiber. So they had no problem with gut or insulin because they were doing that. So just by feeding the gut with fiber, you have enough food for the good guys and the bad guys. So the bad guys have no reason to fight with the good guys over food, and you take away this problem. So that is how the balanced product helps to restore, helps to reverse the gut imbalance. And I'll conclude quickly. I'm going to clear this really quickly. The Unimate product, the way you take it is a simple powder. The way you take this product, you take it 2 times a day. You wake up in the morning, instead of having breakfast, this becomes your breakfast. You dilute it in water. It comes in a bottle. I don't have the bottle. You dilute it in water and you just sip on it every 5 to 10 minutes to try to extend your fast until noon, because the last meal you're going to have is at dinner. the day before. So if you have dinner, say 7 or 8, and you go to bed without having anything to eat, by the time you wake up in the morning at 7 a.m., you have been fasting for 12 hours. If you had dinner 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you have been fasting already for 12 hours. 8 hours of that fasting was spent sleeping. So the Unimate helps you to extend your fast until lunchtime to give 16 hours of resting insulin. So I make a first bottle of this, to take me to lunch. And then after lunch, I make a second bottle of the Unimate to keep cravings down. So I take 2 servings of the Unimate a day. And then the balance product, it's recommended you take the balance product. It's also a powder product. You take that balance product 5 minutes before your heaviest meal. On this protocol, you're going to be down to 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner. So if lunch is your heaviest meal, you take the balance product 5 minutes before lunch, if at least 5 minutes before lunch. If dinner is your heaviest meal, at least 5 minutes before dinner. That's how you take these two products, which help you to be able to reverse the core issues and the reason why we are sick. And because of this, many people are reclaiming their health again. I'm going to end now and hand it over to Amory to moderate from here and show you some pictures of people whose lives have changed forever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dieter. I really appreciate that. I am going to some people in. Let me go ahead and show you a little bit about some examples, and we're going to hear from someone who had the opportunity to have their life changed with this system. So thank you so much for jumping on. Let me just give you some illustrations because I think a picture often is worth 1,000 words here. This is someone who used this system. Their triglycerides were at 1,571, got them down to 270 in a couple of months on the system. Nothing, there's no medication on this planet that even touch triglycerides, but this system does the best of anything you've ever seen. It's not a medication, and we see a drop in that. This is Dr. Dieter, the speaker that we had tonight. This is him when he came from Cameroon and discovered the standard American diet. This is if you take no action, this was what it will do to you. And then 5 years, he discovered intermittent fasting. 5 years intermittent fasting and jogging. He looked like this in the black jacket. Then 2.5 months on the Feel Great system. So you see how you quickly lean out when you're using this. Dr. Kenny, this is 35 days. It gives you a chance to see what you can do, the change you can make in your body in 35 days. So this is Kimberly 60 days. You can see the inflammation, but I have an update for you on Kimberly. This is Kimberly 6 months difference.
That's crazy.
Was that wild, right? 6 months. So you kind of think like, wow, 60 days, that's amazing. 6 months, you wouldn't even know this is the same person. Her life is literally transformed. She feels totally different, no more aches and pains. And she looks 10 years younger. Carla is a truck driver having amazing results on this. And so if you know what a life of a truck driver is, they're sitting in, they're not able to stop and go run around and exercise. So eating truck stop food because that's all that's available. She was worried about DOT losing her license, staying in line with the DOT to do that. We see this all the time. It's a big thing for truck drivers to have some significant change. Angelita is a nurse practitioner in Texas, and you can see her when you saw her in the first time, you think, well, she's thin, and then she got a rock solid body. But what was so significant to her was getting off of the anxiety meds. So once she healed her guts, depression, anxiety, what Dr. Dieter talked about, that microbiome makes all the difference actually up here. You can physically see a difference, but the big impact was her anxiety. This is my friend. Dr. Marla, this is 3.5 months on the system. She was using a cane here on a cruise, long COVID symptoms, would have to take an afternoon nap, just did not feel well, was worried because she is a care provider for an adult, her 40-year-old daughter. She's a care provider for her. And she was thinking, I can't even take care of myself. And now she can. She has herself back. This is Jonathan, 50 pounds in 50 days. His body was covered with psoriasis for as long as you can remember. This isn't his skin, but this is an example. Claudia had psoriasis since she was a teenager, and at 63, she found the Feel Great system, added some omega-3s, and finally got rid of psoriasis for the first time in her life. I met her in Hawaii on one of our trips, and something fell on the ground. She was able to just bend down and pick it up. And she's like, oh, there's no way. There's no way. If something fell down, I could bend down and pick it up. We see significant weight loss results using this system. This is like better than what you would see with Ozempic, but no side effects, zero side effects. Obviously they have to buy new clothes, so that's one side effect. But when they lose weight this way, you don't have that hanging skin that you do sometimes if you have bariatric surgery. They end up with skin when you use intermittent fasting to do that, you don't. John Frost may be on here, but this is 1 year later. He was at 330 pounds. He's lost 100 pounds off of all of his diabetes meds, saved a foot. He had a foot ulcer as well. We're going to talk to another person who had that and was able to get off of his meds. Like completely different. The guy looks like a totally different person, different, and is living a different life. Our speaker tonight, Keith. Keith, I added some new pictures. So this is when you saw Keith, here, you might have seen him out of something. You would think, who's that? Who's that old guy over there? Well, this is Keith has been on the system for a little over 6 months, and now he looks like this young guy. I mean, he looks like he went from 65 to 42 in a couple of months. I wanted to flash forward here. He recently dumped all of the medications that he was using and it filled up this bin. This was his whole day. He lived in diabetes. He lived in this place. And I'm going to show you a foot wound, and this is a little bit hard to look at, so I wanted to warn you in advance. But this right here is the foot wound that Keith is going to talk about. 1 year ago this month, he died of sepsis from this foot ulcer. They were able to revive him. And after treatment, once he was in the ICU, got out of the ICU, he did treatment, drove 45 minutes each way to get hyperbaric treatment in a hyperbaric chamber for months, $200,000 worth of treatment. And it just got this good, like still. 2.5 months on this system that Dr. Dieter talked about, and his foot looked like this. Not only that, they can feel a pulse in it again. And we have this man on here to tell his story for himself. I want you to see this young man that we have. Keith, tell us what life was like before and how things have changed for you.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Before the protocol, my life was pretty miserable, to be honest with you. Type 2 diabetic for 25 years on insulin, uh, all of that time except for the first month, which came with a whole slew of diabetic meds, which you saw the bucket full. Um, and that was managed care. It was a daily routine of trying to keep and get my A1C down. When they found out I was diabetic, my A1C was all it said was greater than 14. And I was told it was genetic. My dad had it, my grandparents had it, and it kind of came to a head in 2018 when I was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré, an autoimmune disorder that destroys the nervous system, which left me with wounds that wouldn't heal, swelling. I was putting on weight. I'd struggled with weight my entire life, but later on it got worse and worse. Um, and then in January of last year, just over a week ago, was my year reunion, I guess, for lack of a better way to put that. I passed away because of that foot ulcer. And it happened on the day of my daughter's gender reveal party. She was finding out I was having a grandson, she was having a boy, and, and it was supposed to be a celebration. And it half an hour after she found out, she got the phone call that I wasn't going to make it. She had to get to the hospital. Um, 2 weeks later, when I finally came to realize where I was at, I got to talk to my daughter, and my kidneys had shut down. They were talking dialysis the rest of my life. Um, and that was able to come back. I'm not on dialysis. But I made it a conscious decision to get healthy. I didn't know how that looked. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I had to do something. Um, and so I started this, and I actually came across the system on TikTok. And I watched for about a good month, doubting every second of it. And when my grandson was born in June of last year, I I ordered the system, started taking it. Literally on day one, my energy went through the roof. I didn't know I hadn't had energy like that in decades. On day two, I was off 108 units of insulin entirely. Had the best blood sugars I think I've had since I found out I was diabetic. Um, and within a week or so after that, I noticed my depression lifted. And in 2 months, I was able to lose about 60 pounds, 8 inches on my waist. I was off 14 of those 15 medication. I was no longer getting injections in my eyes for the bleeding retinas. By day 90, I was off all my meds entirely. I was down 75 pounds, about 10 inches on my waist, and I I never felt better. My cholesterol numbers were right in where they needed to be. My blood pressure had come down from 200 over 100 to about 118 over 73, I think is what it was the last time I checked it. And I now have been on the system for just over 6 months, and I'm down over 90 pounds, 14 inches on my waist, went from a 4X shirt to a extra large, from a size 50 pant to a size 36.
Wow.
My A1C went from 7.5 to 5.4. Um, and I'm just thankful that I found the protocol, to be honest with you. It truly saved my life. And the more I learn, the more I get agitated with nobody told me any of this. I knew none of this.
You were in the system seeing all the doctors, right? You had an eye doctor, a foot doctor, everyone, maybe six doctors treating you for diabetes, and no one said, "Hey, it's what you're eating. It's what you're
My
eating."
diabetic coach came in eating M&Ms. When I very first got, she came in with a baggie of M&Ms and cookies, and it was like you looking back on it, I wanted to I sh I should have just walked out, but I was a good patient. I did what the doctor said, and it got me nowhere until I found this, and it's now given me hope for the future. I was planning end of life stuff with my daughter, and
And
that
you're
has been sidelined.
and you're a young man. I mean, you're in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
Imagine being in your 50s with a couple decades of diabetes under your belt, planning for the end, telling your daughter who's about to have a baby and then a brand new grandson where you want to be buried. That
I
from
would,
that to a regular life.
yeah.
Hmm.
And Kate, you said something which I want to piggyback on. If you're saying as a patient, nobody told you that. As a doctor, nobody ever told me that our diseases were reversible. In medical school, I never learned about the science of the concepts of intermittent fasting and the gut. Never learned about anything that diseases were reversible. We were indoctrinated in medical school. You see diabetes, you give insulin, you give metformin. You see high blood pressure, you pull out the script for high blood pressure. So even it's unfortunate that that's the way our system is. Doctors are not trained to know this stuff. So your doctors didn't tell you not because they were mean and they were trying to hide it from you.
They didn't know. But
They,
Right.
none of them, right? None of the all of these doctors, they don't know.
Yes, I did. You can't tell somebody what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No, they didn't, and it's intentional that they are trained, to write prescriptions. So that I didn't know this stuff 3 years ago. When I learned about this stuff, I felt cheated by the medical education I'd received. I was like, wow, the life would have changed knowing that diseases were reversible. So that's the state of our system, and we can do something about it.
We could do. And you know what, Dr. Dieter, I think when all of us found out about this from social media, directly or indirectly from social media, and we need more help. You know, we're so glad that the 125 people that are on tonight are hearing this story because we need help explaining this really simple solution, this really simple practice that can keep people like Keith around so that his grandkids know who he is. Because there's no reason to have an entire generation of kids to grow up without their grandparents when there's a solution to this problem. So, Dr. Dieter, Keith, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. It's very inspirational and it just covers so many facets of what this system can do to help people. And so I love that you had everything and the bucket of meds that you don't need anymore is really a tribute to what we're trying to do, which is create a life without pharmaceuticals, and we've been successful. We've been successful in doing that. Dr. Dieter, I'm going to turn it back over to you to close us out. And thank you so much for leading us tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys very, very much for joining us tonight. And the mission here is urgent. You see, in the US now, the statistics say that 70% of US adults are on at least one prescription medication, and that number is projected to go up by 2050 to 80% of adults. And we have a solution to a problem almost everybody has. The reason we are sick today is because of those two things that affect our biology that way. And this nutraceutical product is a solution. If you have a loved one who is diabetic, imagine them never having to inject insulin again because their diabetes is reversed. If you have a loved one who has arthritis, imagine them never have to suffer the debilitating pains of arthritis. And you could name the disease, whether it's PCOS, struggling with your on with your hormones and bleeding, or infertility and what have you. The good news is that all these diseases today are reversible if we address those two causes. And so, if you heard this today and you have a loved one who you the wish was on this call to listen to the hopeful story that their illness can be reversed and they were not on here today, we do this call every Sundays and Mondays. So we use the same link, the same time. Invite them to our Sunday call where we're going to be revisiting this issue. We made it our mission. We want to help as many people as possible to be able to reclaim their health, to experience true and lasting health. So, if and we are always looking for people to partner with us. There are not enough of us telling people the good news that they can live disease free. So if you're listening to this and it's something which sounds like a worthy mission for you to get on, you don't need to be a doctor. You could be a hairdresser. You could be a plumber. You could be an Uber driver. You could be a medical student. Name it, what have you? If you have the heart, to help people experience true and lasting health and reclaim their health, please consider joining us on our mission to help your community experience true health. Thank you and good night. If you need the recording for this, with whoever invited you to the call tonight. We will share the recording, which will be available in the next 20 minutes. And we look forward to seeing you on our next call next Sunday with more people to share this good news. Thank you and good night.